and welcome to Liz at Home. Thanks so much for joining me today for another colouring video. Today I'm going to share with you how I colour on a page that I've pre-prepared with Daniel Smith transparent watercolour ground. If you have not used this before, let me know and I will do a separate video showing you how I use it. But I prepared the page with this, and what it effectively does is seals the page, and then I'm going to colour the page using my large set, I think it's 74 or 76 or something, of Zig Clean Color Rail Brush pens, which are water-based. I have them in this full thingy, what you call them, like pencil bag. So I've got quite a lot of colours, and I'm going to be colouring in this Kameliya Angelkova 50 Diminutive countryside scenes. And I'm doing a summery scene, this one with the beehives, which I've done bits of, and I'm going to try this new system of colouring part of the image off camera and then just showing you how I've done the various elements. So without further ado, I want to show you, I'm going to turn a page that hasn't been prepared with the watercolor ground, and you can hear what it sounds like. This that has been prepared and it dried, it just sounds different. It feels different. I don't know how to explain it. It almost feels like when you buy those canvases to paint on. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to do the beehive first. So I've done the two, and the colors I used for the beehive are these three for the top bits. So I start with mustard, number 067. Then I go to bright yellow, number 052, and then I use yellow 050. And what I've been doing is, I just want to put this light on here, going over the one edge and the other edge, side, not edge really. And I love colouring with these when I've prepared the page with the watercolour ground, because the product sort of sits on top and you can manipulate it. Then I'm going in with a bit of the orange. And these Zig Clean Color Brush pens are so nice and bright. When you use them on an unprepared page, especially in an Amazon book, they're not very nice to use because they get soaked up by the paper and then you can't do anything with them. Whereas here you can manipulate the color and blend it all beautifully together. I'm going over the whole bit with the yellow. I've got a little thingy there. And then I'm just going over the edge again, whoops, with the mustard color. Doing the next, I don't want that, but there we go. I've got a little dark speck here. There we are. Oops, that's mustard. The minute I do anything on camera, everything goes wrong. There we go. Gone over it all with yellow. I'm doing sort of two at a time, two of the rings at a time. That side, and then the more orangey one. What was this called? Bright yellow. You'll notice when you add pigment, the one color onto the color you first applied that's slightly dried, that you get a kind of a line. It's because this next pigment is wetter than the first one, and so it sort of pushes the other pigment back. That's a very watercolor thing, and that's why I go over the whole lot again with the highlight color, so that you get the water, the amount of water all the same, so that you don't get funny funny watermarks and things. I really love this feeling of, I'd forgotten, I haven't done this for ages. It's so easy to prepare the paper. They're two different products you can use, and they both give a very similar result. I've recently bought this watercolor ground again because mine was finished. It's I suppose a kind of a gesso, but it's fairly fine, so it's not great to use pencils on top of. Just saying, because it's a little bit sandpapery, but it's not terribly sandpapery. I must say, I've never seen beehives like this. Have you? Beehives I've seen tend to be sort of rectangular things. We're supposed to be having this terrible storm. There was a lot of rain and everything on Wednesday. It was really quite bad. I had to go and fetch my grandson, and it was so stormy. I got slightly concerned about driving, but then it wasn't too bad in the end once I was in the car. But we've had all these level 8 storm warnings and everything, and they actually closed the schools today because of storms. There's been lots of flooding everywhere. But where I live, it's actually been fine. I mean, it's not even raining today. It's quite cold. But it's not particularly windy. There's supposed to be these high velocity winds, so I think perhaps we've been lucky and the storm's passed our area by. I mean, there were some videos of storm surges on the sea and stuff like that, which were quite scary, actually. But as I say, where we live, it's been fine. Do you like honey? I love honey. My one uncle, he's no longer with us, passed away ages ago. But he lived to the grand old age of about 93. He used to keep bees, which was quite a thing, actually, because his wife was highly allergic. So he used to keep the bees on a farm far away from the house. He used to go out there to care for them. My one son is very allergic to bees. Sort of had to carry an EpiPen with him for years. He hasn't now because he's living in Europe and he's been stung in Europe, and although he swells up a bit, it's not a serious allergic reaction when he's been stung there. So I think the African bees and the European bees must have slightly different poisons or something, because he didn't react so badly. His worst reaction was a sting in Britain when he lived there. But the bees in Germany, where he is now, He's been stung there and he's been stung in Greece, and he didn't sort of end up landing in hospital, thank goodness. So I hope that's fine for him. He's such a nature-loving guy. So now I'm just going around the edges with this mustard color. Excuse me. So again, with this, when it's wet, you sometimes need to wait for it to dry a bit before you can go over things, but I think that's fine. I think I may have made the others slightly darker. Then going over there with the, this is again the mustard, and then I've got two browns here. I've got mid brown 065 and dark brown 062, and I used the mid brown inside here. And then I used the mustard again on the top of the table, this little round table. And then the mid brown. Along the edges, just to give it a feeling of a curve. Just need to go over the whole again with the mustard, just to blend them together. I must say again with these things, if you struggle with arthritis or something, this is a really good option because it's very, you don't press at all. I'm using the mid brown here, going to go over the whole area. These clean color brush pens have got a very fine little point. If you're not used to painting or something, you may find it awkward to work with. I did when I first started, but because I spend a lot of time doing watercolors now, I actually love it because I love a paintbrush. And now I'm using the mid brown, the dark brown at the sides, just a little bit. And just below the top there. And then at the sides again. And then I'm taking the mid brown once again to blend it all together. And the same process for the stand, the long stand. I hope the lighting is okay. Just excuse my squeaky chair. Just had another check. So the mid brown. I would love to ask you if you wouldn't mind, if you watch the video and you enjoy it, if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing it with somebody, please. I've noticed that if one shares videos, that YouTube's algorithm thinks, oh, somebody likes this, and they perk up and they start suggesting the video when people are watching. So now going on to the roses, I'm using two colors here, deep red, numbers 260 and Geranium Red 029. And I'm going from the middle that I'm using the deep red for. I think it's just that, but I'm going to put that on the shade, on the where the shadow, where the cast shadow would be from this petal. And then I'm using the Geranium Red on this lighter bit here. And going over the cast shadow as well as going down, just using tiny little circular motions. Sometimes what happens with the watercolor ground is you get a bit of a line, and I'm seeing one there, but it is actually going. And now I'm going back to the deep red. Actually, I'm going to use, with this particular one, I'm going to use the Geranium Red here. Up to nearly the edge. And then I'm going to use a water brush pen and just go from the outside in and pull some of that color out. Got a bit too much water there. And then I'm doing the same thing with the deep red on these other petals. The lower ones here. It feels also, the page feels just slightly tacky, like sticky. I prefer resting my hand on a paper towel because I'm a bit afraid that the color might lift. It doesn't, well, I've never had a problem of once the things have dried of them transferring to the next page. Okay, so I've done that, and now I had too much water, so I'm just drying it off a bit on my paper towel. And I'm just pulling some of that color out so we get a nice paler version. There's a lot of water coming out of this pen at the moment. There we are. So there, I think that looks okay. And now, oh, there's one more rose to do. I want that to dry though, so I'm going to go down here. I used the Geranium Red, and then I used two of the yellows. I used the bright yellow and the yellow. So first going over the whole thing with the yellow. I'm using the bright yellow, and I'm just going over those lines. Actually, you see, this is what happens to me. I tend to forget what I've done. I must have used the geranium here. Now that looks closer to what I did. I kept very carefully all my colors together, but I didn't write down what I'd done. I'm just going over the lines, and then I'm going over it again with the yellow, and it sort of pulls some of that color in. I love the way the color manipulates on top of this watercolor ground. Absolutely love the feeling. I must do this again in another book. It feels so cool. I always forget about this technique. There we are, and I might go over some of the lines again. Anything with these clean color pens is they don't really click on, so you never know if they're properly sealed or not. I do a little line. Oh, I see the wind is picking up now. Maybe the storm is coming. We don't really get terrible storms here where I live, so it's I mean, every now and then, but yeah. But there's been snow in places, and we never get snow. Not snow here where I live. I don't think it will ever snow here. So now with these little delphiniums or lilacs or whatever they are, I'm just using nice summery colors. I'm using Lilac 083 and English Lavender. I've forgotten which is which. That's that one. Okay, so I'm using the English Lavender. I mean, this could, for all I know, be lavender, but I think they're delphiniums or something. I'm just coloring it. I want to put this on Instagram there's a summer hashtag that's running for a couple of months, and I thought this is a nice summery picture. I don't know, are bees summer or are they spring? I always think of them as summer. So before those dry, I'm going to go over that just where the little dots are with the lilac color, and then it will kind of, like wet on wet technique with watercolor, bleed into the lavender color because they're very close to each other colors. There we are, so that's them. And then for these leaves, I used a kind of a, I think it's just called Olive Green 043. And I did nothing special. I just basically flat colored them, and I added a bit more color to the one side. So I sort of went over that again, just to get some shading, as you can see there. 2 more. There we are, and for the stems of these I used deep green 044. I think there was only that one to still do. And then I've used this deep green for the leaves here. I'm going to just show them to you. And I did the technique where I'm using the water brush pen again to get the shading here. So go over the darkest area and then use the water brush pen and just pull the color out. I love doing this. It's so easy, easy peasy lemon squeezy. It really is. What a pleasure to do something that's easy. So much fun, so relaxing. My best is listening to my audiobook as I color. I think I must do this one so I don't get my fingers in it. Wonder if I'll get away with doing. Don't do too much because if it dries, it doesn't move as well. But it does still move. You've just got to work a bit harder. It's the thing I love about water-based things and the thing I don't like about them. So, you know, pros and cons. Here we are. Feel as if I'm busy getting a migraine. I'm starting to get a visual disturbance. So I may have to just finish this leaf and then come back to this later. I need to go and close my eyes. Ugh, hate this feeling. Start to feel dizzy and get curly wheeze going around in front of my eyes. Do any of you suffer from migraines like that? Had them my whole life, but they haven't been so bad lately, but just the last few weeks I've been getting them. Okay, there. So now cleaning that brush off, and I'll leave this to dry, and I'll be back hopefully when my migraine is a thing of the past to finish this. Well, I'm back, and I've done a bit more on this side, and I'm going to just show you how I do the leaves. I used light green, and that's number 041. I've been lying down for a while, and luckily my migraine's gone. Feel a bit woozy, but so pleased that the migraine's gone and I can see again. Hate getting them, really do. So I'm just doing straight colouring with these leaves. So no shading. Excuse me. And one more leaf. I'm doing another layer there just to show a bit of shadow. Gosh, it's really cold. The wind has picked up now, earlier when I spoke, I was saying I wondered when the storm would arrive. It's still not really terribly stormy, but I've seen photographs from friends that live also in the Cape like I do, but in different areas. And they've had trees down and furniture all over the yard and stuff. So I think we've been extremely lucky here. I need to do this one leaf in the, it was in the olive green. I thought I'd done all of them, but I had not done this one. There we are. And then I used a different color for these leaves. I used a very light color called Green Shadow, and it's 041. And for these little flowers, I've been using the Geranium Red, and doing a straight coloring in the center, and then doing this technique where you just color some of the leaf and then use the water brush pen to pull the color out, so that you get shading that way. Easy peasy lemon squeezy once again. One more. So I'm wondering if I should do a blue background or what I should do. I haven't quite decided. Okay, so that's those. Always remember to clean your brush pen out, and you can also just squeeze a little bit of water out of it and then scribble on some kitchen cloth. So that's those reds. And then for these, I'm interpreting these as daffodils. I don't know whether they are or not. I'm using the bright yellow. Don't want to smudge that. In the middle. So bright yellow in the middle, and then I'm using the more pale yellow around the edges and colouring almost to the very edge, just not quite. Trying to work quite quickly so I can do all of them, all of the petals of the flower, and then I'm using the water just to pull it through to the end. There's a lot of water on this brush now. I didn't get some green on there. I don't think so. And this next one. maybe do a few at a time rather than I'm not in a great big rush. I was sort of wondering if I should use a shiny watercolor paint for the middle, or if I should just, I think I'm going to just stay with these brush pens so that the whole picture's done using them. There we are. Those are all done. Now I just used the same, I didn't use the same one, I used the darker yellow, the bright yellow for the bees. I want to check this is all dry. And did every second little segment in the yellow. And then I used the dark brown for the rest of the bee. I haven't done an Angelkova picture for a while, and I'm really enjoying it. So much fun. They're such cute images. I love the way she draws them. And then I used, this is a silver, I think. Either silver or clear, I'm not sure, Jelly Roll glitter gel pen for the wings. I'm not going to too much effort with the wings because they're quite small. And then the only thing we've got left of all the things to color here besides the background are these leaves, which I used the brightish green. It's called light green. And I think this comes down there as well. And what I've done with these is just created a very subtle shading. So again with the water. And on this one, oopsie. Okay, that's done. And then, oh, I put the lid on the wrong side. Not so happy with this leaf color. I think I'm going to try one more layer of the light one. Let me see. Sometimes that helps a bit. And then we just have these little rocks, so I'm going to use the mustard, if I can find it. I think here we are. I'm not sure if this is going to be what I want, but it's a good highlight color for the rock. I've tried to keep my color palette sort of, I wouldn't say limited, but I've tried not to use every color of the rainbow. So sort of to repeat the colors I used there in the flowers in sort of different combinations. And now I'm using the mid brown around the edges here and along these lines. I think that's a highlight line, but never mind. And then I'm going to go over that with the mustard again, which will sort of blend it all together. There we are. Cool. So I'm quite happy with that. And now, big decision. Do I use this blue and do a sky? Or do I leave it? What do you think? Always get so worried. I don't know if I've done anything else in this book. I think I've done one image. No, this is my first image in here. So, I think I'm going to go with it. I'm going to just fill in. So because this video is getting very long, I've just sped this little bit up. And don't you wish that we could colour at this speed? Every time I watch a sped up thing, I really do wish one could do that. I've done all of this lot dark, and then I add water in the rest. So I've done that more in real time with a chat along just to talk you through the process in case you're interested in doing the same thing. I hope you enjoy. I hope you're still with me. Say water if you are when you get to the end. Secret word. I want to try and use the water to make this, oopsie, lighter. Got to get there while it's still wet, so that I can move the ink or the paint or whatever it is. I don't actually know if these are ink or pigment based or whatever. I don't really know much about them at all. I just know that I love them when I've treated the paper. Other than that, they're extremely frustrating to use in a colouring book. If you don't have treated paper, they're great to use on watercolor paper and great to use on treated paper like this, where I've used this watercolor ground. But they, being a wet medium, they just soak into the pages otherwise, and just makes it really hard. I think I'm going to put a bit here, just so there's a little bit more color to move. As you can see, I'm sort of going over it because I don't want that to be dark. I was just feeling like I was running out of color. So I want this sky area to be quite nice and pale. We're nearly done. I've really enjoyed colouring this image, migraine and all. I hope that you've enjoyed doing it with me or watching and thinking about giving it a try. If you want me to show you how I apply the watercolour ground, just ask and I'll do so with pleasure. I think there are a number of videos by various people showing though. So, but I'm happy to do one as well if you'd like me to. And yet again, I'm going to ask, if you enjoyed this video, if you would please consider sharing it and giving it a like, because it really does help the algorithm to recommend the videos to other people. Good old YouTube algorithm, everybody's pet project. Oh, don't go. You see what is happening here is some of the yellows mixing in there. So I'm blotting that with paper towel, because if the yellow mixes in with the blue, it's going to make green. So I'm painting again, but I'm going to try and stop the two from touching each other. Of course, the page does crinkle up a little bit. So if that bothers you, then this is also not for you. I like crinkly pages. They give me a lot of pleasure. Weird one that I am. Let me remove that. Once this has stood for a while, it will be flat though because of the watercolor ground. So we're finished, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video, and I want to thank you for spending time with me and for giving the video a like and for sharing it with one of your friends. Have a wonderful creative week, and bye-bye now.